When was the last time you really felt uncomfortable in a conversation? What was happening? Chances are someone was oversharing and using vulnerability as a weapon instead of a tool. By the end of this video, I want you to see when vulnerability may not be okay and how to diffuse those awkward situations that arise when you're right in the middle of something like this, so you can get rid of your need to feel validated if you're trying to use vulnerability inappropriately, or get rid of that toxic feeling of listening to somebody dumping their false vulnerability upon you. So vulnerability is not okay to use when you're trying to manipulate an outcome. When you want something out of a person and you start saying, I'm going to be vulnerable here and tell you what's really going on with me, that is not vulnerability. Vulnerability is truly showing up, allowing yourself to be seen without any attempt to change what could happen. It's a hard place to be. It is one of the most difficult things about vulnerability, right? You're not using it to manipulate a decision or change a situation. You're just showing up to be seen. It's a tightrope and hard to walk. And so we fall off it all the time, all of us. So what happens? You can diffuse it by doing these things. First of all, you take step number one. Offer compassion to the person who is using vulnerability inappropriately. If you're listening to somebody that is trying to one-up or manipulate a situation or look for pity party, all of these things that people use the term vulnerability for, which is not actually that. And it makes you feel uncomfortable. You may feel the need to step in. So offer that person compassion, or offer it to yourself if you find you're the one doing it, right? You offer them compassion because you recognize, I too have done this. I too have said things in order to change a situation where I felt like I was being vulnerable and honest about who I am, but really I was just trying to get gain out of this, or I was trying to find pity, or I was, all those things that we do when we're being falsely vulnerable. Offer yourself a break. Offer the person doing it a break. Let them know. Well, you don't even have to let them know, but within yourself, give it to them so that you can release that feeling of anxiousness and it's gross. You feel somebody dumping on you and saying these things, you can be like, oh, geez, this is exhausting, right? That's what you do. The second thing to do is give yourself compassion when you use it incorrectly. To reset you need to reset your intention when you find yourself doing this. I was given the opportunity to submit an application to get onto a podcast with Tony Robbins. Big name. I would love to be on a podcast with Tony Robbins and discuss my coaching principles. He has a huge audience. How cool would that be? And the assignment was to explain why you became a coach. What was the thing in your life that brought you into coaching? Well, I have a good story. When I was a child, at the age of 4 to 8, I was violently molested and abused, and it changed my whole world. It is the central issue around which I have used all of my techniques to help myself and then help others. I had this opportunity to present on Tony Robbins, to get on his podcast and to tell my story of the abuse, which is a powerful story. And so I did. I told my story. And as I told the story, I was thinking to myself, wow, this is a really compelling story. I hope I win. I can use this. And I will tell you, when I delivered that story and I posted it and I watched it, it didn't hit right within me. And I realized this was the first time I had ever told that story with an intent to get gain out of it. I had never told that story in the hope that it would open a door for me. And that simple change in my intention took a vulnerable story of how I built a coaching career into a really fake act of vulnerability. I had an underlying intention. And I don't think most people would have sensed that, but enough would. As humans, we are directly connected to each other. A lot of times people talk about themselves being empaths. You know what? We're all empaths. That is the human existence. We read each other, we see each other, we feel each other. And when we dial into that and watch, we can sense this guy's telling a story about how he built his platform, and he's trying to get some, props for how hard his life was. Now, my life is not the sole person. I'm not the only person that's had hardship in my life. There are many, in fact, everyone has, right? And you can't measure that. And when you use that to open a door, it breaks it down. It diminishes the power of it. And I recognize that. And so I decided, I'm going to never do that again. I don't want to use that story to manipulate my audience. It should never be used that way, because it diminishes it within me and it diminishes the people that hear it. Makes us uncomfortable. So that's what happened, right? I realized, wow, I got to reset this intent. Then, once I did that, I just forgave myself. I let it go. It's fine. I haven't had to do it again. But I have, in many other ways since that time, fallen off the path of vulnerability and used it inappropriately. So be clear with yourself. Understand what you're doing. Look at your intent. And then progress. And if you make a mistake, offer yourself compassion, get back up and go again. The third thing that you need to do is be direct with whoever the manipulator is and ask them, what is the point of your story? What is your intention with this story? Everyone else, when they hear this, when somebody says, like, have you ever had that situation where you're sitting around with a group of people and someone's like, oh man, I had the worst day today. I'm just feeling so frustrated. I got up in the morning, my car wouldn't start. I finally got it started. We're driving down the road. I got a flat tire. And they tell a story and it sounds dramatic. And everyone's like, oh my goodness. And then somebody says, well, that's nothing. My daughter killed herself this morning. And everyone goes, what? That is somebody that does not understand what vulnerability is. That is somebody that's one-upping. They are in need of attention. They are in need of support. That is a truly horrific thing to say, right? And they're saying it throwing off the cuff, trying to one-up this person who's bemoaning their life on simple little things when theirs is truly powerful and hard and more compelling. It's as if saying, don't look at that. I'm the one really suffering. You guys don't even know my story. It comes across poorly. Yet, maybe you've done that yourself. Maybe you've witnessed other people do that. Maybe there's a piece of you that longs to do that and you haven't done it and it's in you. So you can recognize when somebody else does it, what's going on. And you can turn to them and say, oh my goodness, that's a really hard story. Why did you tell us that right now? Ask them that. They might come back and be like, well, that's because their story was so lame. Like, that's not even bad. When they say that, then you can get into a real conversation. It diffuses the kind of griminess of what we feel when somebody is not truly being vulnerable. We feel that manipulation within us. I had an experience when I was living in France doing my MBA. I was walking home from school at the end of the day, and there was this guy in a wheelchair on the side of the road begging. And for me, I will look at every beggar. I look him in the eyes, and or somebody that's asking for something, I always want to kind of look at them, look at their humanity. So I looked at this guy. This is what my dad would do. And I said, how can I help you? And he said, well, I actually just need need somebody to push me down the road to this restaurant. It was about, 400 yards away, 400 meters away. And I was like, okay. So I pushed him down to this place. It was right in front of a restaurant. We got there, and then he said, I can't remember. He asked me for something else. Oh, he asked me for food. I didn't have any money on me. He wanted to go in the restaurant and eat. And I said, I don't have any money on me, but I do have some food in my bag. I had a lunch that I hadn't eaten, and I gave him my lunch. And he kind of curls his lip up at me, right? And he's doing this, the whole time he's doing this kind of, I'm crippled, I can't do this on my own, I need help, this whole thing, right? And I agree. I am not crippled. And it looks to me like it's harder for him to live than it is for me. I'm happy to help. But his constant sort of drip on his situation was getting tiring. I could tell he was using it to try to compel me to do something for him. And then he says to me, well, I could really use some money. And I take it back. I had a little bit of money. I think I had like €5. I gave him €5. And he wanted more. He has not said thanks to me for anything I've done yet. And he looks at me and he says, well, what can I do with this? I need at least 20. And there was an ATM across the street that I could have walked to and got him the money. But at this point, he had been using his kind of vulnerable, I'm in a wheelchair, help me out routine for so long with me. I didn't help this guy. I just said, no, dude, I'm done. Like, take this stuff and go. And I wasn't rude, but I was not gracious. And I was abrupt and I walked away. And I thought about it a lot, right? I thought, man, why did I react to that guy that way? And it was because he was hitting me with vulnerability that was not real vulnerability. It was manipulation. And that is when it's not okay to use. You cannot use it to be manipulative of others. You have to use it as a true show up, here I am. If he'd have started out with when I met him and said, look, I'm tired. I'm in this wheelchair. I've had a tough day. I need food. I sure could use €20. I would really appreciate it because I just don't know what I'm going to do. I'd have responded like that, given it to him, no problem. But his antics of getting me there made me feel like I was being used. I didn't like it. I didn't like his lack of gratitude. I didn't like his inward focus that was posing as vulnerability. It irked me, and it irks others too. You'll see it. And so, if you want to know when to use vulnerability, it's always okay. What the question is how, which is not to use it as a form of manipulation in any way. It is just showing up to be seen as your authentic self. If that's what you're trying to do, just allow someone to see who you are and where you are, you're using it right. You're good. You'll be set. It's a powerful thing. So, if you are wondering, how can I do this and keep track of everything I want to do? Here's a video coming up for you, losing track of your own desires. What happens when you're facing that, when you lose track of your own desires? Watch this video. I hope you'll enjoy it. My name's James. Thanks for hanging out with me. Video's coming up.